In 2022, the United States Mint embarked on the long-awaited American Women Quarters program, a series designed to honor pioneering women who left indelible marks on history. Among the inaugural honorees was Dr. Sally Ride, the first American woman in space. Her quarter, struck at multiple facilities, was celebrated for its depiction of Sally in her flight suit, gazing out toward Earth with a gleaming shuttle in the background. Millions of these quarters flowed out of the Philadelphia Mint, each die set carefully inspected, each planchet carefully pressed. The Mint had emphasized precision for this series, knowing it would carry symbolic weight. Yet in the frenzy of launching a brand new program, small oversights were inevitable. That spring, rolls of Dr. Sally Ride quarters began circulating, and collectors across the country lined up to get theirs. Some sought pristine specimens to send off for grading, hoping to snag an early MS-68 or MS-69. Others simply wanted one as a keepsake to honor her achievements. On a quiet evening in April, a collector named Jason Adler found himself at his kitchen table, eagerly tearing into a fresh box of quarters he'd purchased from his local bank. Jason had been collecting coins since childhood, and though he rarely expected much from modern issues, the excitement of a new series was enough to keep him searching. He spread the shiny new coins in neat rows, his magnifier already poised. At first, they all looked exactly as they should. Sharp designs, clear inscriptions, flawless fields. But halfway through his third roll, Jason noticed something odd. One quarter's reverse caught the light differently. He leaned in closer, puzzled by what he saw. The design wasn't just crisp, it seemed layered, as if a faint second image lurked beneath the first T-first. Jason suspected strike doubling, a relatively common mechanical flaw. But as he turned the coin under his light, the details of Sally Ride's portrait showed actual doubling on the lettering and her figure itself. Not just a shadow, but clear, distinct doubling on the words United States of America and Dr. Sally Ride, and faint yet unmistakable extra lines in the shuttle. His heart thudded in his chest. Could it really be a double die? He rifled through the rest of the roll, checking each coin carefully. None of the others showed the same anomaly. This one was unique among dozens of perfect strikes. Jason felt a wave of exhilaration and doubt. Double dies in modern coins were exceedingly rare. He thought of the famous 1955 cent, the 1972 double die, and wondered whether he'd just stumbled onto a modern equivalent. He spent hours scouring online forums, comparing photos, posting images of his find, asking questions. The replies trickled in overnight, cautious at first, then more confident. That's a true double die. You may have just found something huge. Word spread quickly. Jason sent the quarter to a grading service, hands shaking as he packed it into its flip. Weeks later, it came back certified and graded, genuine double die, MS-67. That single coin, pulled from a bankroll, was no longer just a 25-cent piece. Collectors clamored for details. Dealers began offering substantial sums. At first, offers hovered around a few $100s, then crept into the low thousands. As more people learned about the variety, other examples began to surface, though they remained scarce. Only a handful were found over the following months, mostly from Philadelphia minted rolls. Jason's coin, being among the first certified and in such high grade, carried a premium. Auctions began to feature the error, and each sale seemed to set a new record. Within a year, the market had grown ravenous for these elusive errors, with prices climbing higher, whispers of a modern rarity fueling the frenzy. The error itself became a point of fascination. Collectors marveled at the subtle yet striking doubling that graced the reverse. The letters bore delicate yet undeniable extra impressions. Sally Ride's portrait appeared ghost-like in places, her face and suit lined faintly as though she were stepping out of the coin surface. The shuttle, too, seemed to shimmer with a faint second outline. It was beautiful, but what made it truly captivating was that it shouldn't have happened. Not in the 21st century, when advanced quality control was supposed to catch such flaws. Even more surprising was the twist that emerged a few months later. Jason, ever the diligent collector, continued searching through rolls, hoping lightning would strike twice. And then, improbably, it did. One evening, he spotted another oddity, a second Sally Ride quarter, but this time with what looked like a partial missing clad layer on top of the double die. The copper core peeked through in patches across the reverse, giving the coin a patchwork of silvery and copper hues, while still displaying the doubling. This new discovery stunned the collecting community. A double die was already extraordinary, but a double die combined with a missing clad error? That was virtually unheard of. Experts theorized that perhaps a poorly prepared planchet somehow escaped into the press, compounding an already rare double die with yet another layer of mistake. Jason sent it off for certification, and when it came back authenticated and graded, its uniqueness was confirmed. Collectors now spoke of the Adler specimen with awe. Prices surged again. The earliest double die examples continued appreciating, but Jason's combined error piece became a legend unto itself. Dealers speculated that it could one day bring a five-figure sum if the right buyer emerged. Auction houses called him privately, trying to secure consignment rights. For Jason, the discovery was as thrilling as it was surreal. Through it all, the 2022 Dr. Sally Ride quarter remained a powerful symbol, not just of the trailblazing woman it honored, but of the enduring human fascination with mistakes, with imperfection. In the sea of flawless modern coins, it was the unexpected flaws that ignited collectors' imaginations, transforming a simple 25-cent piece into something extraordinary. And as Jason looked back at that quiet evening when he first spotted the doubled letters glinting under his lamp, he couldn't help but smile at how a tiny, imperfect coin had changed the course of his collection forever. In 2015, the United States Mint continued its ambitious America, the Beautiful Quarters program, releasing yet another design to honor one of the nation's treasured national wildlife refuges. That year, the spotlight turned to Delaware's Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge, a haven for migratory birds and pristine wetlands. The quarter depicted two graceful herons in their natural habitat, carefully etched into the reverse by the Mint's engravers. Millions were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities to keep up with the program's demands. Amid this busy production schedule, countless dies were polished, planchets fed into presses, and coins poured into bags and rolls bound for banks across the country. As the presses clattered and the dies hammered down, everything seemed to move with mechanical perfection. Yet even in the modern minting era, mistakes find a way through. For the Bombay Hook quarter, the error that emerged was subtle yet striking, one of those anomalies that could so easily have gone unnoticed. The Mint was operating under pressure, tasked with producing billions of coins annually, and sometimes a worn die or a flawed hub made its mark on history. Far from the bustling mints, a collector named Elena Morales sat at her modest dining room table one chilly November evening, sorting through a fresh roll of quarters she had just picked up from her bank. Elena had long been a quiet enthusiast of the America, the Beautiful series, enjoying the challenge of collecting each design in pristine condition. She spread the shiny new quarters out in rows, examining each under a magnifying glass. Bombay Hook was beautiful on its own, the delicate herons and marshes catching the light as she turned each coin between her fingers. But then something unusual caught her eye. One of the quarters looked off. At first she thought it was just wear, but these coins were brand new. She looked closer, and her breath hitched slightly. The marsh scene seemed blurred somehow, almost doubled in certain areas, with faint ghost-like outlines trailing the birds. The inscriptions, too, had faint but visible doubling, making the letters appear thick and uneven. She blinked, unsure if her eyes were playing tricks on her. Heart quickening, Elena compared it to the others in the roll. All the others were crisp and clean, their design sharp. But this one quarter stood apart, flawed, yet fascinating. She'd heard about double dies before, legendary errors that turned ordinary coins into prized rarities. Could this be one of them? She pulled out her loupe and examined the details again, noting the doubled lines on the heron's wings. The reeds in the marsh seemingly struck twice. She barely slept that night, turning the quarter over in her hand again and again, wondering if it was truly special. The next morning, she posted pictures on an online forum for error coin collectors. Responses were cautious at first, but as more experienced eyes weighed in, the excitement grew. One user replied simply, "That looks like a true double die. You may have just hit the jackpot." In the months that followed, similar examples began to surface here and there, but they remained incredibly scarce compared to the millions of flawless Bombay Hook quarters struck. Elena's find was certified and graded by a major authentication service, which confirmed the double die and assigned it a high grade thanks to its near-perfect condition. Word of the error began to spread among collectors, and demand grew as more people became aware of IT first, prices were modest. A few $100 here, 1,000 there. But as time passed and the error became more widely documented, its reputation swelled. Collectors started to appreciate not only its rarity, but the story it told. A reminder that even modern minting can't completely eliminate human error. Auction results began to climb. One pristine specimen sold for several $1,000s, another a bit higher. The next year, a record price was set for one in gem condition, sparking renewed interest. Elena watched this evolution with a mixture of wonder and quiet satisfaction. She wasn't in any hurry to sell her own coin. Every so often she'd take it out, marvel at the double details, and think about how a mundane trip to the bank had led her to something truly remarkable. She kept tabs on sales and articles about the error, watching as the Bombay hook double die rose from obscurity to one of the standout modern errors of the series. The error itself remained a subject of fascination. The doubling was clear, yet graceful, giving the herons a surreal, almost ethereal appearance. The reeds looked as though they swayed twice in the wind. The inscriptions Bombay hook and Delaware had a shadowed thickness that collectors adored. But the unexpected twist came when a few sharp-eyed experts noticed something else. Some examples of the double die also exhibited a faint die clash, an impression of the obverse design ghosted into the reverse. It was rare, even among the rare, a subset of the already scarce error that collectors began hunting with renewed fervor. This revelation sent ripples through the community. The already high premiums for the double die variety surged even higher for these so-called clash and double specimens. Stories circulated of collectors finding them in pocket change or rolls and turning a modest discovery into a major windfall. Dealers at coin shows started keeping close watch for Bombay hook quarters, hoping to score one before the market priced out of reach. Elena was stunned to learn that her own coin not only bore the double die, but also faint traces of a clash. She hadn't noticed it before, but under better magnification, the faint outline of Washington's profile could be seen on the reverse field, ghostly but distinct. This discovery added another layer of intrigue to her coin story and increased its value even further. Years later, the Bombay hook error remained one of the most sought-after modern U.S. coin errors, a testament to the enduring allure of mistakes in a world that strives for perfection. For Elena, the journey from a quiet evening at her dining table to watching her coin headline a prestigious auction was nothing short of surreal. And yet, she often thought back to that first moment she noticed something odd, something imperfect in the marsh scene of a brand new quarter, a moment that changed her understanding of what it meant to truly collect coins. In 1965, the United States Mint faced one of the greatest challenges of its modern history. A national coin shortage had gripped the country, caused in part by the rising price of silver and widespread hoarding of circulating coins. Dimes and quarters, once taken for granted, were being stashed away by Americans who feared silver would soon become too valuable to ignore. Faced with dwindling supplies and mounting public frustration, Congress authorized a dramatic change. The quarter, along with the dime, would no longer be struck in 90% silver. Instead, starting that year, a new clad composition would be used, an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The silver era of circulating quarters came to an abrupt end, replaced by a practical but far less lustrous alternative. The mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco began producing the new clad quarters in the millions. The changeover was urgent, and presses ran almost non-stop to meet demand. In the rush, dies and planchets were constantly swapped, tested, adjusted. For most of the coins, the transition was seamless. But as history has a way of reminding us, perfection is often elusive in the world of minting. Years later, in a quiet suburb of Chicago, a collector named Thomas Green was sorting through a jar of change that had sat on his mother's counter for decades. Thomas had inherited her modest collection of coins after she passed away, a jumble of nickels, dimes, pennies, and quarters spilling out of an old mason jar. One rainy evening, he sat at the kitchen table, sifting through the pieces more out of nostalgia than any expectation of finding treasure. He knew enough about coins to notice dates, mint marks, and errors, but he didn't imagine he'd find anything more than pocket change with sentimental value. When his fingers brushed against a quarter dated 1965, he nearly set it aside without a thought. After all, 1965 was the first clad year, and most collectors dismissed those as ordinary. But something about the surface of the coin stopped him. The shine was different. It didn't have the dull gray look of copper nickel. In fact, it almost seemed to glow with the familiar pale brightness of silver. He held it closer, tilting it under the kitchen light, and his breath caught. Could it be? The weight felt a bit heavier than the clad quarters next to it, though his fingers alone couldn't be sure. Thomas retrieved his small digital scale, placed the coin carefully on top, and watched as the number flashed on the display. 6.25 grams. His heart began to race. The clad quarters weighed 5.67 grams. Only the old silver quarters weighed this much. Yet the date, clear as day, read 1965. He hardly slept that night. His mind raced with possibilities. Could this be a leftover silver planchet that somehow got struck with a 1965 die? He posted in an online forum, sharing a photo and his findings. Replies trickled in, some skeptical, some intrigued, but one veteran collector urged him to send the coin to a grading and authentication service. The next morning, Thomas carefully packaged the quarter and shipped it off. Weeks passed, each day feeling longer than the last. Finally, an email arrived. His coin had been certified genuine, a 1965 Washington quarter, struck on a 90% silver planchet intended for earlier production. A rare transitional error created during the chaos of the silver-to-clad changeover. His hands trembled as he read the words over and over, T first. The significance of the error was only appreciated in small circles of collectors. Early auctions of similar 1965 silver quarters fetched a few $100s each, respectable but not life-changing. Yet as time went on, the story of these transitional errors gained momentum. They became emblematic of a dramatic moment in U.S. monetary history, a tangible link to the end of the Silver Age. Collectors began to see them as more than just a curiosity. They were relics of a turbulent economic chapter. Prices rose, quietly at first, then more sharply as demand outpaced the tiny supply. At a regional coin show a year later, Thomas watched another example sell for several $1,000s to an eager bidder. He began to wonder what his own coin might fetch if he chose to sell. But each time he considered it, he found himself hesitating. After all, this coin had introduced him to a whole new dimension of collecting, one where even the most ordinary pocket change could hide something extraordinary. The error itself was subtle yet unmistakable to those who knew where to look. While most 1965 quarters showed the muted, darker hue of copper nickel, his gleamed with the distinctive white luster of silver. The reeded edge revealed no trace of the telltale copper stripe, and when tapped against another coin, it rang with a high-pitched tone that clad quarters could never replicate. These differences fascinated him. Every time he held it, he felt a renewed sense of wonder at how such a mistake could have happened. Then came the twist, something he hadn't anticipated. At another show, a dealer who specialized in mint errors examined his coin and made an unexpected observation. While most known 1965 silver quarters were struck on leftover quarter planchets, a handful, his included, appeared to have been struck on planchets meant for silver dimes. Slightly underweight and just shy of full diameter, these rare pieces were even more desirable. The dealer explained that the mint's frantic effort to 1965 sometimes led to the wrong blank being fed into the press, producing hybrid coins that defied expectations. This revelation sent Thomas down another rabbit hole of research, tracing auction results and studying mint records. The few dime planchet errors from 1965 had commanded significant premiums over the standard silver strikes, their quirky dimensions and dramatic backstory capturing collectors' imaginations. Suddenly, his coin wasn't just rare, it was rarer still, part of a select group of errors born of confusion and haste. Over the years, as awareness of the 1965 silver quarter errors grew, so too did their value. At auction houses, bidding wars broke out over pristine examples, prices climbing steadily. Coins that had once sold for hundreds now traded hands for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands in the most spectacular conditions. Each sale seemed to push the ceiling higher, as collectors vied to own a tangible piece of history. A silent witness to the mint's turning point, by the time Thomas finally brought his coin to a major auction, the buzz surrounding it was palpable. Collectors gathered, whispering among themselves, the room charged with anticipation. When the final hammer fell, the number on the screen seemed almost unreal. The silver 1965 quarter, struck on a dime planchet, certified and beautifully preserved, had fetched a staggering price, cementing its place among the most coveted mint heirs of its time. As he held the check in his hand and looked down at the empty slab where the coin had once sat, Thomas felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride, of course, and amazement at how a single coin plucked from a dusty jar had changed the course of his collecting life. But also a lingering sense of awe at how history, chance, and human error had conspired to create something so special, hiding in plain sight all those years.